I'm like everybody. I get an impression about people from the media. And this is the first time I met you. And there you are, this nightmare figure with the long hair who throws bananas and is generally the next thing to instant revolution and blood on the streets.
Yeah.
And I talked to you for 5 minutes, and you're a gentle giant. How do you reconcile those two?
Oh, I think, well, we are all human beings. Sometimes we show a part of us, sometimes we show the other part.
Because, I mean, looking at your politics from the outside, obviously I'm not there as an actor, I sometimes wonder, are you frustrating yourself? What you want, I would have thought any intelligent human being
I think it's the job of the psychologist to understand my ego and super ego. Well, as I said, always said, listen to your heart.
What radicalized you?
I was born in 1956. It's just aftermath of the Second World War. I was the second half generation. So, Cold War, the conflict between ideas. My mama was an armor, so I did feel a little bit frustrated about the British rules in Hong Kong, you know. And my mother actually is a very good example of.
Was she, in herself, as frustrated, do you think?
She didn't show it. She was very strong.
Which bit did you pick up on?
Well, it's after I grew up a little bit and I listened to some of her relatives talk about her life, you know. She was born in a small village in Canton, in nearby Chongqing. And she married to a guy, and the guy was a gambler, and they didn't get along. And the guy died, and then she went back to her family and being the breadwinner for the whole family. So, of course, she suffered.
So, and then she came to Hong Kong?
She came to Hong Kong after the Second World War, I think. And then she tried to learn the trade as an armor. She did success, but unfortunately, she was ill, and then she met my father. I don't think that they have love, but my mama need to survive, so married to a guy much older than her.
Yeah.
And then she gave birth to me, and they didn't get along.
Right.
And then my father disappeared.
So you grew up as an only boy, with your mum working hard?
Well, since my mama needed to work as an armor, so I was sent to a family of her relatives, and the family was big.
Right.
They got 7 children, so I became the black sheep.
Yeah.
I got all the blame. So that's why I like to read a lot, because I think reading is a very, very, very silent world, you know.
Yeah.
Nobody bother you. You betray the book cannot betray you. You throw them away if you don't like them.
What did you do when you left school?
I was fond of the idea of Maoism at that time, you know, since my mother was a supporter of the communist regime, you know. I think accordingly to her own experience.
Right.
I think she thought that the communist actually is a liberator.
But she left Guangzhou? There's a bit of a contradiction there?
Yeah, it's a bit of contradiction.
Yeah.
Yes, because in one hand, she fled. On the other hand, she watched the changes. After the communist rules in the first few years, it was not bad, you know.
Right.
So I think she thought that she was nobody, but you know, in a colonial Hong Kong, but all of a sudden, China stood up,
right? And
Chairman Mao said that, oh, the Chinese people stood up, so
right,
yeah.
And but now you grow up.
You might say. She became more patriotic.
But you grew up then in Hong Kong, and you became radicalized and profoundly against the British colonial system.
The story was very long, actually. And then I became a Maoist when I finished my primary school, and then I went I went to secondary school. It's a government school, and it was in the memory of a governor called Clementi. Mm-hmm. So I met those Maoists.
Right.
I was really, really impressed by them, and I met a mentor there. She was arrested and beaten up and tortured and went to jail. He made his big statement in court to condemn the colonial rule. Mm-hmm. He was my mentor.
And you've kept that in your mind ever since?
Yes, and then up until the downfall of Nimpel, who were supposed to be the official successor of Chairman Mao, and all of a sudden he became a traitor, right, condemned by the whole nation, and I thought there was something wrong.
So you've had a change of mind?
Change of mind, very frustrated, and then I went along reading a lot of different kind of philosophy and theory about socialism, and then eventually I became a Trotskyite.
So Trotsky, you got your trademark Che Guevara T-shirt on. Failed revolutionaries? Is there something?
They all fail. I mean, the paradox of the revolutionary hero is that when communists succeed, they rewrite the history. Mm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it's all fake.
But the failed revolutionaries, if they got into power, would they have been like everybody else?
I cannot guess whether Trotsky will become a tyrant. Actually, there should be a genuine democracy to do the check and balance. You cannot rely on the leaders.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No.
You can appreciate those statesmen or politicians, whatever you call.
Right.
But you need to keep an eye on them. Don't let them become a big brother who always watching at you. You watch, you know what I mean?
You watch them.
Yeah, vice versa.
But the way you go about watching, it seems, is extremely combative. But what about meeting them
If you
halfway?
need to compromise,
yeah,
you compromise. You know what I mean? If you think about those people who suffer, you got courage. You will become courageous to make compromise.
Right.
If you need to.
So, would you have compromised going to Shanghai by thinking, well, if I got to talk to these guys...
I don't need to compromise.
You don't need to. Why not?
Because they invite me. I didn't beg for them.
Right. But then you kind of kicked them in the eye.
I didn't.
By going along with stuff you knew that they would say. Yeah, but you knew
I didn't stop them.
But you knew
they stopped me. They checked my luggage.
Right.
I didn't check their luggage. They told me they tried to tell me off.
And you said nuts.
No, I said, well, how come you need to assist my open letter to your senior officials? Mm. It's mine. Right. It's not yours.
And what did they say?
It's always too sensitive. It seems that they have some kind of disease, you know.
Right.
Like Hong Kong foot.
So there you are. You take this high public profile. You're our leading radical, as it were. Do you ever fear for your safety? I mean, journalists are getting chopped. They're getting pressured. Do you ever fear? Do you get pressure?
Not very often.
But sometimes.
Well, fear is from your heart, you know. Mm. I think the fear is you need to face. You to always confront yourself, you know, to be honest to yourself. You know what I mean? Sometimes when you think you are not being honest to yourself,
but
you feel fear.
Okay, that's an inner fear. What about actual external threats?
Well, once I make a will for myself, just after the handover, I said the first one is I will not suicide. Mm-hmm. So if I...
And found in suspicious circumstances dead.
Secondly, I will not go to mainland. Mm-hmm. So if you find me being arrested in mainland, it's not true. Right. There's something wrong. Thirdly, there should be a forensic check after I die.
So you genuinely felt that you might be a target?
Well, sometimes I think it's a little bit silly, though. Mm. You know what I mean? I'm a small potatoes. There are many of big.
Do you ever feel that you are actually marching to the beat of their drum? They want a Democrat like you, so that all the people in the Hong Kong Club and other such places have their views of democracy confirmed.
That's why I never try to keep my mouth shut. If they want to use me, I get used to it, and I use them as well.
And so you build your constituency. So are you going to keep on winning elections and staying in the Legislative Council by being as you are?
You can't be a winner all the time. See what happened to MU, Manchester United. You ask Mr. Sir Ferguson.
Yeah, but they did change their manager.
Don't you think that you will keep on winning?
Right. But you don't have a manager. You haven't changed your manager.
I think it's out of my mind. You know, when you think about this guy, Mr. Liu Xiaobo.
Sure.
You know, you take things more easier. And when I sometimes I read those memorial of those activists, revolutionary, you feel a lot easier because
you know
their life is
terrible. But for you, you're lucky. You still live in a society where the rule of law prevails.
Yeah. It's my parents' fault. They gave birth to me in a place like this.
Would you prefer to be in a place like that so that your protests...
It's easier to say than done, you know. If I need to live in a remote area, in somewhere in China, maybe I don't have any kind of knowledge about the world, you know.
Right.
So my fear is simple. Once you are there, you are here. You keep on move. You move on.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't look back.
Right. I've heard it said that your LegCo salary helps you do things that if you were just an ordinary guy on the street you wouldn't be able to do. Is that true?
Yes, certainly.
You don't just live the high life.
Thank you to the voters that they really facilitate me by vote me in.
Right. What do you do with it?
I think I use about more or less is 70% of salary in support of the activity. What
sort of activity?
All kinds.
Try and specify.
If you, I got some kind of small fund. Okay, if those NGO or civic organization they need money and
any particular sort. I mean, pro-environment.
Of course, I got the final say. You know,
right.
They cannot force me to give my little money to them.
Right. But which sorts of groups?
Left-wing orientated, environment, progressive. Okay.
Okay.
Cut it short.
Right. And you feel that they're underfunded in Hong Kong? There's no access to funds except through the charity.
Hong Kong is a very difficult place. Expensive.
Right.
And it's not easy for you to convince people to donate money to you because there are too many people who do the fundraising from time to time.
Sure.
So if you're small potatoes, of course, people ignore you.
Right. Do you feel frustrated? I mean, I've always thought about LegCo that it's powerless. It has a power of obstruction and nothing else.
Well, I have already repeated for tens of times, you know, that maybe the final change will be conducted in the chamber. But what makes the chamber become a place like that is from the outside. It's not here.
Right.
Just like you buy eggs, you buy flour, you make a cake, you put in the oven. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean that the oven made the cake.
Right.
It's you go to the supermarket, you do all kinds of donkey jobs in order to put it in the oven.
Right. And so who's...
You know the oven will not make the cake itself.
So Legco is the oven of Hong Kong's future.
Well, more or less.
Who's buying and mixing the ingredients?
This Legco is useless because 40% of my colleagues are coming from the functional constituencies.
Right. Does that mean necessarily that they're no use? Can't they be independent-minded?
Or,
even if they come from a functional constituency?
All they are being useful is to doing harm to the Hong Kong people. In that sense, they are useful. They are useful as a rubber stamp.
You genuinely don't think that their views could ever count as serious views, as opposed to just rubber stamps?
Well, if they don't have the wisdom to say no to this kind of nonsense, I mean the functional conditions, I don't respect their wisdom, though, even though they might be very wise other way.
So you have given up then on constitutional reform? You just think because they're a blocking majority, in effect?
No, keep on fighting. I know you are a sailor. If I ask one question, will you keep on sailing? You will say, yes.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah. And fighting is what?
It's not fighting. It's self-defending, to put it in a more accurate way, the right to choose our leader on universal suffrage is mine. It's my right.
Right.
They take some, if you open your door and you find a few guys sitting on your sofa and open your fridge and eat your ice cream and drink your Coke, what do you say? You say, come on, wait a minute.
This is theft.
It's mine.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so let's pick that apart a bit. Choosing a leader just isn't that simple. I mean, yes, I have a right to choose, and I believe firmly in it.
Some people decline,
But even the people who decline, somehow that leader is not there. He doesn't emerge naked from the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Leaders are picked, groomed, shuffled.
All the leaders, they need to make their own way, by leading something, You know what I mean?
But career politicians are career politicians. They spend their lives...
They are not the leader. They only lead to their own career. They are not leaders. They are the leader of themselves.
So how do
leader is...
But direct elections...
Leader is fighting for a vision.
Yeah. You
know what I mean?
But direct elections aren't necessarily going to produce people like that.
Certainly. I agree with you.
But isn't this back to that Karl Popper point that actually what matters is being able to throw out the bad ones? You give them a try.
I know the theory. Even though
it's less about picking them than about throwing them out.
Yeah. I think his argument is very simple. To say that don't fight for a perfect society. Mm-hmm. It could be a myth.
Right.
So you try to correct it bit by bit to avoid those people to make it worse.
Right.
Something.
Do you agree?
This. I don't agree with him.
You don't?
He's a great thinker, I think.
But you would want to go for a perfect society?
Why not?
Do you think you know what a perfect society is?
I don't know. We're on the way. Moses doesn't know. When he was in the desert, he was condemned by those guys who followed him. Yeah, but he had to get out of Egypt. He had the assistance of a higher power. Do you? And Moses looked back, and then he cannot go to the promised land.
Okay, thanks very much indeed.